A statistics major did not study for his final exam. It was a true-false test, so he decided to flip a coin for the answers. The statistics professor watched the student the entire 2 hours as he was flipping the coin, writing the answer, flipping the coin, writing the answer. At the end of the 2 hours, everyone else had left the final except for the one student. The professor walks up to his desk and interrupts the student, saying, "Listen, I can tell that you did not study for this exam. You didn't even open the exam. If you were just flipping a coin for your answer, what is taking you so long?" The student replied bitterly, "Shh, I'm checking my answers." So in this unit, we will be looking at understanding randomness. So why should we be random? What is it about randomness that's important? Well, it kind of seems fair. Why? Well, you're not going to know what the outcome is beforehand. If I know what the answer is going to be before we do our little random thing, that's just not fair. All right? And the outcomes seem like what we might expect if the game is not rigged. So if, for example, in flipping a coin, you would expect half the time to be heads and half the time to be tails. Sometimes we want outcomes that are equally likely, kind of like flipping a coin. And then there are other times we'll want different weights, and we'll talk about that. Now, there are some ways to get pretty darn random. We can take a look at, again, flipping a coin. That should give you 50-50. By the way, there's a very cool video on the same page at the bottom on saying, is flipping a coin truly random? So you might want to check that out and apply. There's some physics to it. You won't have to do any formulas, don't worry, to explore this. We could also roll some die. So that would be a way to get random. And of course, they're always spinners. Although I always wondered if you started the spinner at the same spot every time, is that really random? Who knows? Okay, so statisticians actually use randomness as a tool to make things fair, okay? Now, it can be hard to be random. Now, I love this little Dilbert cartoon. There's, over here we have our random number generator, 9999. Are you sure that's random? Well, you know, that's a problem with randomness. You could actually get a bunch of 9s in a row. So, they have actually created random number tables. There are actually entire books of carefully generated random numbers, and they publish them and they sell them. So we could use these books to find some real random digits. There are also several internet sites, and they have used things like the decay of a radioactive element or lava lamps. Didn't know my lava lamp could be used to generate random numbers. Computers are really the popular way to generate random numbers. But believe it or not, they aren't exactly random. They're called pseudorandom numbers because the computer's going to use sort of an algorithm that'll make it seem random. But if we were to take all our calculators, clear them, they're all going to start from the same point. We might actually get the same numbers because of the algorithm. So that might be a fun experiment. So how do we use a random number table if we're not going to be flipping a coin or rolling die or something like that? Well, basically, let's say you're going to state how many digits you're going to take. All right, so if I'm flipping a coin, I might just need 1 digit, and I can use that. Then I'm going to have to remember which ones I'll skip if I'm going to skip any. And in this example, I'm going to use it to simulate flipping a coin, and I'll pick row 3. And when we in class, when we use the table back on, I think it's page 77, A77 at the back of your book, I'll say, okay, you're going to use this row and you're going to use this row so that we have different sets of random numbers. So we could simulate it and say, okay, if it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to be heads. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's tails. So how many heads would you get if you flipped a coin 20 times? Well, you could actually flip a coin 20 times, or we could use this. So you can see 0, that's heads, 3 is heads, 2 is heads, 7 is tails, 2 is heads, 4 is heads, 1 is heads, 2 is heads, 3 is heads. Man, we're getting a lot of heads. And I keep going until I do my 20 flips. Just ignore don't use the digits after the first 20. And you can see that in this particular instance, I got 12 heads. Okay? Now, the other way, and probably the most popular way to create a random number, other than coin flips and dice, is generating the pseudo-random numbers on your calculator. So you can see here, your calculator actually has a function called randint. And you can see right here, I'm showing you how to generate random numbers from 0 to 9. So let's go through the steps and I can play this again. So the first step is you're going to press math, all right? And let's see if I hit play here. So you're going to press math right there, which is under the alpha key. Then you're going to scroll over to PRB for probability, all right? So math and then probability. And then we have to say our integers. So we want random integers, so we're going to press 5. All right, so let me go ahead and hit play on this again so you can see the steps. So math, scroll over to probability. There's random integer, press 5. And then you need the low integer and the high integer. Okay, so enter the minimum. We recommend you use 0. Okay, and then you can put a comma, and you saw that the comma's right there. Here's the comma. And enter the maximum integer. In this case, we're using 9. And enter the close parentheses and press enter. Okay, and if you want to get more random numbers, you can just keep hitting enter, enter, enter till you get your list. So let me hit play one more time. And there you go. Math, probability, random int, hit enter. There you go. And then put the 0, 9, close parentheses, enter, and then just hit enter, enter, enter to keep it going. All right. You can also do a shortcut. So if you know you want, say, 5 random integers, you just add an extra parameter there called 5, saying I want 5 random integers, and it will actually give you a nice little list in a row of your 5 random integers. So for further reflection, why do we want randomness? Went over that at the beginning. Try to provide me 4 different ways to generate some random outcomes, all right? And remember that pseudo-random numbers are also acceptable. So how are some ways we can do that? Why can we use pseudo-random numbers? Well, usually pseudo-random numbers are close enough for the work that we do. So they're not that far from being random. And actually, if you check out that number file video on the coin flip, you'll see that it's interesting too. You should be able to use a random number table, all right? So you understand it's pretty straightforward. They're just random lines of digits at the back of your book. You should be able to generate a random integer using your calculator.